What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the media screen in the 2022 Kia Seltos. This is going to be an in-depth look at everything about the screen, all the different settings, how to set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and everything in between. Let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and figure out what this media screen is all about. All right, next up, taking a peek at the actual media screen. So this is a 10.25-inch media screen. In the lower trim levels, you're going to be looking at an 8-inch media screen instead. But there's a lot of flexibility and there are a lot of options when it comes down to it. Now, along the top there, we've got different settings. So if we've got multiple users, we can easily set some up. We can do a guest, or we'll have different users down on the bottom there as well. Moving into our home button, a lot of options. So let's start off with our map. So this specific one, the 10.25-inch screen, will have factory navigation included. If you have the 8-inch media screen, don't worry, because we can connect through Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze if we wanted to. We've also got this button. So as you can see there, we've got our menu, where we can look at our different route. We've got our nearby point of interest icons, traffic display, and a number of other things. Moving into our options there. So this is where we can go in order to be able to search for addresses. So if we just start randomly typing in an address, all right, there we go, perfect. So CAA Kingston, it's gonna take me into a random route. So we're gonna go CAA Kingston. There we go, so as you can see there, it's gonna let us know, and we can go, and we can set it as a destination, we can save it as well. So if we go to set as a destination, perfect. So as you can see there, it is now guiding us to that location. So we've got some options when it comes down to it. So we can just hit start guidance, we can go route. So we can see we've got a ton of different options there. It lets us know which way we're going. We've also got, so if we jump back into our menu there, so we've got our route, so we can reroute, and we've got some route options. There we go. We can add in a waypoint if we want to, and we can also go for a route avoidance. So if we want to avoid freeways, toll roads, things like that, we've got that option, and we can hit recalculate along the bottom there. We can restart our guidance again after we've made any changes. Moving back into our menu, we've got nearby point of interest icons. We can save it as a favorite address if we want to. So we can save it with a name. We can save that address as well, which I think is a great feature. We can increase or decrease there, and pinch. We can also pinch to zoom as well. And then we can also move this thing around. So really, really straightforward there. And we can set as a destination, set as a waypoint, things like that. Moving back home, and if we jump back into our navigation menu again, we've also got a few other options. Back into our map, this is going to bring us back to our map. We press the menu option there, we can turn our display off, we can pause the route if we wanted to as well, so very straightforward there. Moving back home, we've got our navigation menu. So we've already seen a few of these options a second ago, but we've got some places. So we click on places, we've got some different options there to be able to search. Now, one cool thing is that we can search using an address if we wanted to. We can also search using GPS coordinates, so we've got some options there. Moving back, we've got our point of interest icon, so our categories there. So certain things will show up. We've got our previously saved destinations as well, which is that address that we just put in. So we can save it, set it as a destination, etc. We can move back again. We've got our address book, different dealerships, and we can also cancel the active route. So route's been canceled there. Moving back into our home button there. So we can press home, or we can press the home icon along the top. Back into our navigation menu. So we've got a few different options for the actual menu itself, and we can set up a few different waypoints. So if we typically go between different addresses, we can easily set some things up along the bottom. Next up, we've also got our phone. So phone, we've got some basic preferences. We've got our hands-free calling and then Bluetooth audio. So we can select one or the other. All right, so setting a phone up is very straightforward. So what we're gonna do is on our phone, make sure that Bluetooth is turned on, and we're just gonna go to Kia. So as you can see there, we're looking for the vehicle name, and we wanna make sure that the PIN numbers match up, which in this case they do, so it's perfect. We're gonna give that a second. All right, now it's asking me, do I wanna allow favorites and contacts to sync up? Yes, we wanna allow that. And hands-free calling is now activated. So perfect, we jump back into the phone there. So it's downloading my contacts. We can go through different contacts there. We can also go through my phone. So we've got our dial pad there, we've got our messages, and that's how we set a phone up. But setting a phone up is great, but one of the cool things is that we also do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay capabilities. So in order to be able to set that up, it's very straightforward. All we're gonna do is take our USB cable and plug it into that USB port in the very front, and we're just gonna take the opposite end of the cable, and we're just gonna plug ourselves in. Bam, watch this. Okay, do we want to allow CarPlay with the phone while it's locked? Yes, we want to allow that. And CarPlay, so we've got our GPS location, we've got our Bluetooth services, so we're just gonna hit the next button there. And one of the cool things is that we can also use Siri by pressing the button on our steering wheel. But as you can see, we've got my maps, We've got my Google Maps, we've got Waze, so we've got a ton of different options when it comes down to it. Now, that's one nice thing to know because yes, this thing does have factory navigation, but if you'd prefer to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, or whatever the case may be, you've got some flexibility there. So I love that fact. Now, one of the cool things about Apple CarPlay is that inside of our settings, so if we go General Settings, into CarPlay, we can select the vehicle and customize, and we can drag and drop some things. So if you tend to listen to podcasts a little bit more and then your audiobooks, we can drag these things, we can remove certain things as well. If you've played around with it too much, like we can add them back into the bottom, or we can just do a reset to bring it back to that factory default instead. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And we are now back to our default. And one of the cool things is that we do have that flexibility, is that it stretches across the entire screen. And I love the way that this thing looks. Now, as a default, it may only be partway through. I'll show you in just a second how we can make sure that it's stretched across the full side. But jumping back home, as you can see there, we are back home. Now, certain things like LiveX Live, Pandora, etc. will work through Apple CarPlay as well, which is great. And as you can see, we are now connected again in order to jump back into our main menu screen. So we're just going to hit the Kia button there, and that brings us back to this main screen instead. So we've got a little bit of flexibility now from this screen. If we jump into Setup, we've got a few different options there. So we've got navigation, sound, device connections. So if we go to device connections, we've got Bluetooth, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. So if we jump into Apple CarPlay, which is what I've connected, we have to, in order to be able to make changes, first disconnect. So we disconnect there, jump back into CarPlay, and now we can enable it, and then we can use split screen as well. So if we hit split screen, I want you to watch something for a sec. So split screen, plug back in, and watch this. Here, we're going to go back to our home screen. There we go, perfect. We're going to go back into Apple CarPlay, so we're going to go home and Apple CarPlay. And look at this, we're split screen. So it's really cool that we've got that option. And again, in order to be able to set that back up and bring it back down again, and actually while we're there, jump into CarPlay because we can be connected through CarPlay, but if you see there, we can also use our regular radio instead. Now, that's very straightforward. So in order to be able to set the screen up again, all we're going to do is go Kia. We go into our setting along the bottom, so our settings there, device connections, and same thing. In order to be able to make that change, we have to be disconnected through CarPlay first. We go to Apple CarPlay, and we can enable or disable the split screen if we wanted to. We can also completely disable Apple CarPlay, which is beneficial because we can then be charging the phone up without actually using CarPlay. So you've got some flexibility there if you want to. And it works the same way with Android Auto, so we can go one way or the other. And then we've got our Bluetooth connections again. We go back to our home screen, we jump back into our phone, and we've got a few different options there. So as you can see, back to my dial pad, and it really is that simple setting up a phone inside of this vehicle. Now, connecting an Android device is literally the exact same process. So if we go to our phone projection there, so as you can see, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay supported. So we're going to go to settings there if we want to, so we can enable, disable, etc. We jump into Bluetooth and then Bluetooth connections. As you can see, we've got my iPhone that's connected. We can delete the device or we can add new. So we're literally going to do that. We're just going to go add new on this screen. As you can see, so we've got some options there, so we're just going to hit OK. Okay, so we're looking for a phone in our Bluetooth settings. We're looking for a vehicle in our phone settings. It's the exact same name there. So as you can see, we've got Kia. We're just going to press Kia there. Okay, same thing, make sure the numbers match up, and they do, so we're just going to hit OK on the phone. And there it is. Hands-free and Bluetooth are now connected. Really that simple. Now, as you can see, it's asking me, do I want to allow access to my contacts? Yes, we definitely want to make sure we do that. And we're connected. We go back to that home screen in just a second. So contacts downloading successfully. Allow access to messages. Yes, we want to allow that as well. And we are now connected. Perfect. Now, as we jump back to the home screen for a second, we jump back into my phone, and it's literally the exact same look. So we've got call history, contact book, things like that. So a lot of flexibility. Now, we do also have the option of setting up Android Auto, and it literally works the exact same process. All we're going to do, take our USB cable, and we're going to plug it into that front port there, opposite end of the cable, and we're just going to plug ourselves in. Boom. And let's give that a second. Okay, Android Auto would like to turn on Bluetooth. Yes, we want to hit next there. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ah, it's fully connected. So as you can see, we've got my maps, and we jump into that home button there, and that's going to bring us back to this basic screen. But we've got my reminders, maps, news, podcasts, messages, and a number of other things. Along the very bottom, we can hot press to get back into Google Maps. We've got my notification center and then my Google Assistant. Now, very similar to the iPhone side of things that we just saw, we can also search on our phone for Android Auto. So we search for Android Auto, we can jump into our settings, and we've got our currently connected vehicle, and we can also customize the launcher. So if you have a preference, maybe jump your podcast up to the top. So we're just going to press it, hold it and drag. Now, unlike the iPhone side of things where it was dynamic and it updated it automatically, we have to restart Android Auto in order for this change to work. We can move back for our Google detection. We've got our daylight mode, we've got our Google Assistant, and a number of other things. And then in order to be able to remove phones is very straightforward. So go back to the main menu there and just disconnect for a second, jump back into my phone projection, go into settings. Okay, and we've got Bluetooth there. So we can disable Android Auto, Apple CarPlay if we wanted to, or we can just jump into our Bluetooth connections. We've got both of my phones, so we can delete the phones if we wanted to. So we can mark all if we want to delete them both. We can delete one or the other. We press delete, yes. And iPhone's gone. And the Galaxy is gone. It really is that simple, connecting a phone to this vehicle. All right, so as you can see, all of the phones are disconnected now. So we jump back to our home screen. We've got my phone projection. We've also got a voice memo prompt. So we can select voice memos and we can set up voice memos inside of the vehicle as well, which I think is kind of a neat touch. We've got some climate control settings as well. So jumping inside, so we can auto dehumidify or defog. And we've also got our valet mode. So the valet mode is an interesting one because if we've got that mode activated, what that's going to do is lock this screen out. So if you're lending the vehicle out, you've got a valet parking, whatever the case may be, they can't look through all of your different settings, addresses, things like that. We've got sound mood lamp. It'll take a second. There we go. So as you can see, we've got some different options there. So we've got different colors, different themes, and things like that. So if you've got a preference, you can easily set that one up if you want to. We've got our HD radio, we've got our regular radio, which, watch this for a second. Ah, look at this. I love this old school look. Like, it is so freaking cool on Kia's part to do this. Like, it's so nostalgic. Looking along the bottom, we've got our HD radio. We can flip between stations. And if we want to save a preset, it's pretty straightforward. Like, all we're going to do is change to whatever station we want to. We start and it's saved as a preset. And from there, we can just de-start in order to get rid of it. So it really is that simple, setting up presets in this thing. Jumping back, as you can see, we've got a few other options. So we've got our basic media. So jumping into media, we've got AM, FM, Sirius XM. We've got our sounds of nature as well, which is really cool if, yeah, there we go, this is it. If you prefer these types of sounds, we've got our basic media again, and we've also got our setup screen. Let's actually turn this down a tiny little bit. All right, here we go. So we've got some other settings that are available there. So we've got our basics for vehicle settings. All right, here we go. So we've got our driving convenience. Firstly, we've got our driving assistant and then the auto curve slowdown, which if the vehicle senses an upcoming curve, it's automatically going to slow us down. Our warning timer, so we've got a few different options there. The volume of that timer. Our driver attention alert. So as we start to veer over too many times, it's going to let us know we should probably take a break. We've got our forward safety setting as well. So that setting is something that we can turn off. So that pre-collision assist where it's potentially going to brake for us, we can turn that one on or off if we want to. We've got our lane safety system as well. So we've got our assist, we've got our warning as well. So we've got a few different options when it comes down to it. The actual assist, what that's going to do is that's going to keep us and recenter us back into our lane. We've got our blind spot system, and that's either going to be either a warning or same thing, it's going to nudge us back into our lane as well if there's a potential collision. And then we've got our safe exit assist as well. Moving down, we've also got our parking safety, so our rear cross traffic alert. So as we're backing up, if the vehicle senses another vehicle, a potential collision, it's going to actively let us know about that. So we can turn these safety settings off if we really don't want them. We've got some basics for our cluster, so we've got our illumination. All right, so we've got our auto adjust, so the vehicle's automatically going to determine how bright or dark this thing is, or we can manually adjust it if we want to. We've got a blue light filter, which I love the fact we've got that. It is so cool. And then extended rear camera use as well. Moving back, we've got a few other options. So our service interval, energy consumption, and then our welcome sound. Moving to our climate, we've got auto ventilation, and then our defrog and defrost. Our rear seat heating control. So that's one of the cool things because our second row does have heated seats, and we can turn that one on or off from the front here also. Moving back, we've also got our lights. So we've got our one touch tight, and this is a cool one because if we hit our turn signal, we've got 3 blanks. I don't know if you heard that, but we've got 3 compared to if we hit 5 and we go to turn. So we can select how many times this turn signal goes, either off, where it's just going to go once, 3, 5, 7, etc. We've got our headlight delay and then our high beam assist. So the high beam assist is a pretty cool one because what that's going to do is exactly this. It's going to automatically dim the high beams if it senses a potential another vehicle that's oncoming for us. So I really recommend keeping this setting on. That's going to be the basics of our driver assistance. We've got some navigation settings as well. So we've already seen a few of these basics, but we've got our map. We've got a few different options for our map display, our font size, map color, and then our point of interest icons. Big one here, so we've got our guidance. So we've got our interval, our voice guidance. We've got the option of muting that out if we don't want to have the vehicle talking to us. Our cross border, and then we've got some different alerts. How are they going to show up? And then we've got some other settings. So fuel price information, user data, things like that. Moving into some sound settings. So as you can see, we can figure out what's going on with the actual positioning of the sound. We've got our sound tuning as well, so treble, mid-range, bass. We've got our basics for guidance as well. So our parking safety priority. So as we're backing up and we've got the vehicle in reverse, it's literally going to lower all the other volume for us, and that's just a basic safety one. And it's the same thing with our navigation. So if we've got an upcoming turn, it's going to lower our car audio in order to let us know of an upcoming turn as well. We've got some different system volumes, and we've got a radio noise as well. Moving back, we've got our device connections, which we've already seen that one. So we've got our Bluetooth connections, our system info, things like that. We've got a user profile. So if we've got multiple users in the vehicle, we can set up an individual profile for everybody. We've got voice recognition. So we've got our beginner, normal, or our expert mode. So if we hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, I want you to listen to something for a second. 94.9. Okay, so when we're in the beginner mode, it lets us know what's going on. So it gives us notifications as it makes changes. When we go into expert mode, listen to this now. 97.7. Okay, it changed the station for us because we go home for a second. Let's go to our home there, and as you can see, it's changed the radio station for us, but it didn't let us know that it was doing it. So that's one of the cool things about that system. When we get into the advanced mode, we just won't get as many notifications. So if those notifications drive you nuts, we do have the flexibility in our setup in order to be able to change that around in our voice recognition. So we've got a few different settings there. Our screen theme and layout, so we've got a few different options as well. So we've got our analog clock, digital, etc. We've got our split screens. So our split screen, we can do that for certain things. So for our map, compasses, etc. So what's going to actually show up in that screen? And we've got some basics for our display as well. So again, we can automatically adjust the brightness. We've got a few different options there. We've got our buttons. Now the button is going to be literally this. So we can set up a custom button for us, not only here, but also on the steering wheel when we hit that mode. So in this, we can have it pull up our UVO, our sound mode, HD radio. Inside of remote there on the steering wheel, we can switch between different things as well. So it'll rotate us between Bluetooth audio, sounds of nature, music, and things like that. So we've got some flexibility as to what's actually happening when we press the either button. UVO, we do also have a built-in modem, so we can use it as a wireless hotspot for a number of devices. One thing to note is that you do need a data plan through your cell phone provider in order to be able to do that. We've got some general settings as well. Which general settings? We've got our models, software, system info, my date, date and time, language as well. So we've got a few different options, go between English, French, Spanish, or Korean. So a little bit of flexibility when it comes down to it. Next up, we've got our sound of nature, which we've already heard, UVO, which we've already looked at, notifications, which lets us know, we have to activate UVO first, but lets us know if there's an update available, things like that. And then we've also got a user manual. So it's a QR code, we scan it on our phone, and that's going to launch us into the online manual. So really, really cool that we've got that feature, and that's going to be the basics of this media screen. That is pretty cool, and I hope you learned a couple things. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.